Hey, it's Tom from Texas, and it's time for another Floppy Deep Dive. And today we're going to be doing another in the series of What's on That Floppy. Yep, we're going to be looking at all the different games on this floppy, checking it out. Could be games, could be demos, could be utilities. Doesn't really matter. We load it all up and we check it out for the first time in 30 years. It's like opening up a little treasure chest and seeing what's inside. It's awesome. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's okay, and sometimes it's just a dud. But it doesn't matter. That's all part of the fun, checking this out and seeing these games I downloaded back in the 80s on my 300 baud and hoping no one picks up the phone and disconnects it and then you lose it all, right? So if you love retro computers and you love retro gaming, this is the channel for you. So go ahead, subscribe, then pull up a chair, grab a joystick, and let's get started.
So the first game we're going to be looking at today is Cliffhanger. And Cliffhanger came out in 1984 and it was released on two platforms, the Commodore 64 and the ZX Spectrum. And we're going to be looking at both of those platinums today. And Cliffhanger, if you've never played it, is a classic and one of my favorites on the Commodore 64 because it was so replayable, right? And the big thing about this, or at least what it reminded me of, was so Wile E. Coyote Roadrunner type situation. Except in here, you are a Cliffhanger and you're the hero and you're trying to take out the bandit. And so they put you in these different situations. And it's basically, the game is a different scenes from a Western movie that are shot. So you either play the hero Cliffhanger on your own, and there's always a twosome where his brother Coat joins in. But the aim's just to release action at the right point of time to kill the bandit, El Bandito, who runs through the screen. You roll a rock, you throw a boomerang, fire a cannon. You fire a cannon, sometimes in the canyon. But anyway, the scenes are chosen randomly by the program and are repeated until the action's successful. And the title screen gives a hint to what scene will be coming up. And it was very like comic strip-like, just like I said, looks kind of like Wile E. Coyote Roadrunner type scene. And it was kind of a little pseudo 3D design, rather simple graphics, but it was good animation for the different film scenes. And in addition, it had appropriate music and sound effects for it all. And during all the scenes, exact timing is so important. So you need to remember for each scene time how long it takes from the start to the action to happen, the effect to make it actually take out El Bandito. And like I said, I don't think this game got a lot of love. I'd be interested to hear if y'all ever played it or ever heard of this game before. I definitely loved it. I thought it was, like I said, a huge game I played over and over in my childhood. There's no really high score or anything that it keeps, but it was just great to continue, to be able to take this out. And they give you those different scenarios. The boomerang always drove me nuts because trying to throw the boomerang and take out the bandit and just trying to get the timing right, because sometimes you had to wait until they got right up to the cactus, or sometimes it was right in the circle of the canyon, or sometimes it just depended on each one. So you had to figure out as you moved forward. So down in the comments, let me know, did you play Cliffhanger? This one's the star of the show today, guys. This is the one that on this floppy, I was so happy to see it that I was able to play it. So I hope you like this one as much as I like this one and love to hear your thoughts about it. So now let's look at the ZX Spectrum version of Cliffhanger. And as you can see, it's all in yellow and the graphics aren't as good as the Commodore 64. And this game came out in 1986, so 2 years after the Commodore 64. But I'm glad that it put it over in the system, and it's nice to see what it looked like on another system. I don't think the ZX Spectrum is as good as the Commodore 64. This is my first time ever playing this version. Like I said, it's all timing. It's the exact same thing of trying to hit the El Bandito with the rock and at the different scenes. Got him on that one for 1,000 points. Not that saying that this one is bad, it's just not the same as the Commodore 64. So did you play the ZX Spectrum version? If you did, give me some comments out there and let me know what were your thoughts of this game. Did you have it over there in the UK, and did you play this game, or wherever you have the ZX Spectrum, did you play this version of this game? Would love to hear your insight, and if you loved this game as much as I loved it on the Commodore 64. Let's watch a little bit of the gameplay and then we'll move on to the next game on this floppy. Yes, got that little booger. So first we're going to be looking at Iridis Alpha, which came out in 1986, and it only was released for the Commodore 64. And this is a shoot 'em up H-scrolling game developed by Jeff Mentor. So in this game, the player controls a droid named Gilby, which can be moved both flying and by foot over the planet's surface. And its task is to visit all sections, all levels of the planet Iridis Alpha, and silence any resistance with the photon permanent fire. So the basic principle of the game is that our android Gilby gains energy for each shot enemy, but loses energy for each time you collide with an enemy. So both too much and too little energy causes a loss of life. And I would be lying if I told you I remember this game, because I do not remember this game at all. But now that I played it, I actually liked it, so I wanted to share it with you guys since it's on this floppy. And if you kind of get the Defender feel for it, that's exactly what I got too. I've got my little map down there at the bottom. I got my spacecraft coming at me on all these different sizes. I assume they're spacecraft. And then, of course, when you die, it gives you little comments. But you kind of look like when you're starting off there and you're long, kind of it reminds me of a centipede or a caterpillar or something when you got all those different colors behind you. And things are coming at you pretty fast. I was just trying to figure out exactly what I was doing and what I was shooting and what exactly they're doing. Laser blaze, the scum. But did I enjoy it? Yes. What is the thing down at the bottom on the radar? It has the little like devil head on top of the pole. I have no idea. Down below we've got energy and our points and our core and just little different things that I'm not really exactly sure what all that's telling me exactly. It does have a score, but I don't think it keeps these high scores. It's just something to put it. But very colorful game. A lot of graphics, a lot of sprites coming at you, trying to, to get you. But I liked it. I don't know if you guys ever played it, but I definitely enjoyed playing this one. And I played it for a little bit. I'm not showing it all here, all the gameplay. Not that it's the greatest gameplay in the world, but I wanted to show you at least a little bit of it and give you an idea and feel of this game. So next we're going to be looking at a game called Police Cadet. And Police Cadet only came out for the Commodore 64, and it came out in 1986 by Artwork Software Company. And it's an arcade shooting game for the Commodore 64. So the player takes the role of a police cadet training to become an officer. And on the screen there's numerous people running back and forth between doors at what appears to be like a busy subway station. And the player controls the crosshairs and must quickly shoot any criminals wielding a gun before they disappear into another doorway. And you got to make sure that you take care and avoid shooting innocent people. And on the bottom of the screen, a police scanner tracks recent criminal events and the time remaining in the training session. And at the end of each session, the player receives a score based upon criminals and innocents that they shot. So as you can see on the bottom, you have a 3-minute time frame here that you're playing. And my biggest struggle was just trying to see who actually had guns, who were the criminals, they're so small in their hands, so it just didn't really stand out really well. But when I did, you know, I could take them out, or you could point your trigger at them and they'll surrender. Sometimes when you can't tell who it is, if you just had your trigger pointed on them, they'll take off running the other way. That's usually a good sign that it's a bad guy trying to get away from you if they start running the other way. But little things like that. I did enjoy it, but it did get old quickly. I thought, you know, it's a typical shoot 'em type game with your trigger and try to shoot 'em and so forth. It would be cool with like a little light gun or something to play this, but the guys are just so tiny, right? So it's hard, like I said, always to identify who exactly was the criminal. So I probably shot more innocents than bad guys on this game. So do you remember the Police Cadet? Did you play this game? I'm sure it wasn't huge back in the day. I do remember it, and I definitely can tell you I do remember playing it as a kid, but playing it today, I give it a B. It had potential. It could have done a lot more. They could have had different levels and changed it, but this is it. You see everything right here in this screen, so that's what I'm saying. Just replay wise, you probably would play it a couple times and then you probably wouldn't play it anymore, would be my guess. But if you played it, let me know. Put it down in the comments. I'd be interested to know how many people actually played this one or even heard about Police Cadet. All right, let's move on to the next one, guys. So the next game we're going to be looking at is Freak Factory. And Freak Factory came out in 1986 for the Commodore 64 only. And it wasn't ever officially released in the United States, so this has got to be like the PAL version of it that we got by Firebird Software. And this game's interesting. From what I gathered and read a little bit online about it, that it was really buggy. It was a buggy game when it came out. Even having the original, it was really buggy. But it looked like it had potential, right? From everything from battling the evil scientist and him having his meanies to come and get you. It looked like it was a good concept, but everything I read about it and playing it, it just wasn't that great of a game. I know I read the review in Zap magazine, and they were really down on this game. They just thought it wasn't really fun. I did see some people enjoy it. I give it a C. I just thought it was okay. I didn't really get that far. Again, I can honestly say I never played this game as a kid. It just never really got my interest to get that far, and it was so easy just bumping into things and dying and so forth. I don't know. It just wasn't my style of game either. But like I said, it looked like it had potential. When you go into the lab is interesting, and you have to get so far if you can get that far. But I thought it was just okay, and I'd be interested again. I asked this question at the end of all these little mini reviews of these floppy deep dives. Did you play it? Especially my UK friends that actually have the original cassette. Did you get very far? Did you complete this game? Did you find it to be a buggy game? Is it just like everything that I read online? But playing the game, it was just okay. Like I said, just to see. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one. So next we're going to jump back 3 years, and we're going to play a game called Speed Racer, released in 1983. And no, this Speed Racer is not attached to the cartoon at all. Has nothing to do with the cartoon. But Speed Racer is just a little action top-down racing game where you can control the car vertically, scrolling on a never-ending road as the timer ticks down from 100. And when it reaches 0, one of the player's 3 cars just gets removed out of there, okay? So a car's lost also when it crashes into a road obstacle or a parked car. And there's also people on the road, from policemen, grannies, children on bikes, and more. And the game is played for high score in 3 categories: how far you drive, miles driven, heavenly and devilish points. So heavenly and devilish points are awarded for avoiding and by driving over people respectively. And then you get an extra card for every 100 miles driven. And this game is a good solid C also. For 1983, I've played much better games, much better racing games. This is just okay. I never really played this game much. When I saw Speed Racer, immediately I thought of the cartoon and thought, oh, I wonder what it's going to be, because I couldn't even remember what it was. But then once I loaded it up and started playing, I just thought, oh my gosh, what is this? But I wanted to share it. It was on this floppy. It is from 1983, so they still were improving games as they went. And it's got its place. I've played a lot worse games. That's why I give it a C, because it's still very playable. And if you like these kind of games where you either run over people or you dodge the people or whatever the case might be and see how far you could go, this game is for you. And maybe you love it and you could keep playing it. But for me, it was just okay. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Next, we're going to be looking at the game The Evil Dead, which is based on the 1981 horror film of the same name. And this game came out in 1984, and it was released over there in UK, over in Europe, and it was never an official release over here in the United States, but it came out on 3 different platforms. It came out on the Commodore 64, the ZX Spectrum, and the BBC Micro. We're going to look at both the Commodore 64 and the ZX Spectrum versions of it today. The Evil Dead was one of those movies that I seen as a kid that I saw way too young, that I should have never watched. I don't have good memories of that movie at all, and I don't remember even playing this video game, but it's the typical ZX Spectrum looking type games, even though it came out on the Commodore 64 first, because it wasn't really officially released on the ZX Spectrum. It was eventually just appeared as the B-side on the game Cauldron, and that's how they got it on the ZX Spectrum. But the game's set in the cabin from the Evil Dead film, and you control the player Ash, and you must close cabin windows to prevent monsters from entering, while also killing monsters that are already in the cabin. And as you defeat the monsters with various weapons, shovels, shotguns, and axes, your energy level decreases, and you must continuously pick up new weapons in order to increase your energy. And once you defeated all the monsters, you must obtain the Book of the Dead and destroy it in order to defeat evil. So here's the ZX Spectrum version of the game, and it looks almost identical to the Commodore 64 version. Besides, the colors are a little bit different. But as for like the cabin layout and the different creatures and so forth and the weapons, it all looks very, very similar, almost exactly the same as you could see. Again, same concept: grab the weapons, kill the monsters inside the cabin, try to close the windows to keep the monsters out, and go from there. Again, I'm going to reach out to my UK subscribers, or even if you're watching this and you're from over in the UK, did you play this game? Was it a very big, popular game over there in the UK? I can honestly say I don't remember ever playing it as a kid. I probably loaded it up to see what it was, moved it around a little bit, and never loaded it up again. So this is probably the second time I ever loaded it up. And obviously it's my first time to load it up on the ZX Spectrum, since I just got that machine this year. But it seems okay. It's okay. I would give it a C. I'm in that kind of range with this game. I'm not really, I don't hate it. I don't love it. It's just kind of there. And I just wondered and love to hear someone who does love it, and you tell me what it was about it you love it. I like it for about 5 minutes, and then I'm pretty much done with it. So let's go ahead and move on to the next game. So the next game we're going to be looking at is Cholo, and Cholo was released in 1986, like a lot of these games on this floppy, and it was released for the BBC Micro, and then it was ported out to the ZX Spectrum, the Amstrad CPC, and the Commodore 64. And Cholo uses wireframe 3D visuals and has non-linear gameplay. And the story set out in a novella, which is included in the game packaging, which I do not have. And it's following a nuclear war, and humanity is trapped underground by a robot defense system that rules the surface. And your character assumes control of a robot drone transmitting to a terminal below ground and is given the task of freeing the trapped humans. Now, I played this game and I flew all over the place, or tried to drive all over the place, and I couldn't find anybody. I couldn't find any humans. All I could find is just structures, those wireframe 3Ds, and little doors to go through, and it would tell me that I crashed into something, but I could never really find anything to do, and so I would lose interest. The story's really good. You know, when I read about it online, you know, you're this robot called Rizzo the Rat, and you got a single laser, and you got limited armor, and you're supposed to explore the city and take over stronger robots in order to complete the mission, which is, if it was Paradroid, very cool. I love taking over stronger robots. I couldn't find any stronger robots. And so I tried to move around and do different things. And so I just did not get this game. I tried and I tried and I wanted to like it. So I tried it out on the ZX Spectrum too, because I had that version. I thought, well, maybe I could do something there. Nope. Same exact thing. I just drove around looking for something to do, and I just couldn't clearly do it. So either I need instructions, maybe you guys can tell me, is this an awesome game that I'm missing out on? I need to be more patient and go in there and figure out exactly how to do it. I don't know, but I could definitely tell you again, this is not a game I played on my Commodore 64 very much. I'm sure I loaded it, and I'm sure I drove around a little bit, and the same exact thing is happening when I'm 50 years old. I drive around a little bit, and I'm like, what the heck am I supposed to do? You know, just get to the course. Get to it where it's supposed to be. What's the exciting part? Show me what I want to do. Don't make me just drive around and see nothing for the first 20 minutes. Give me some action. So I want to give this a D. This was another one of the Firebird games that was published, and Firebird was pumping out games left and right back in the day. So anyway, I want your opinion on Cholo. Did I not give it a good chance? You tell me. Like I said, we're looking at both versions here, the Commodore and the ZX Spectrum. Now, let's go ahead and move on to the next game. So the last game on this floppy is Big Trouble in Little China. It came out in 1986, and again it was based on the movie of Big Trouble in Little China, and I'm going to give you my hot retro opinion right now. That movie sucked. I thought that movie was terrible. I tried to watch it. I know that it's a cult classic, that some people really like Big Trouble in Little China. I thought it was stupid. I did not like it. And you know what? The game is exactly the same. This game is terrible. I would give it a big, huge F. Now, it came out on 3 different systems, the Amstrad, the Commodore, and the ZX Spectrum. I would give you the ZX Spectrum and show you what it looks like on that, but it's not even worth it. It doesn't deserve a many faces because this one is just that bad. I'm just going straight ahead. I'm fighting the same guy. I'm fighting the same guy. I'm fighting the same guy. It is so boring over and over and over again. I don't know, is there something else I'm supposed to be doing or I'm missing? But it is just blah. I can't even turn back the other way. My guy can only face one direction while he's going forward. So I'm not going to put a lot into this. That's it. This game's an F. I wouldn't recommend it. Don't play it. It's the worst game. It's the reason I put it at the end of this video. Thank you all for making it this far. Anyway, that's everything on this floppy. The good, the bad, the ugly. Let's go ahead and wrap this thing up.
So that's it, guys. That's everything that's on this floppy. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you played these games before. Also, let me know if you've never heard of these games. Love to hear your comments, your insights. Whatever country you're from, I'd love to hear if you ever had it at your country, if you played this game, and what kind of impact it had over there. I know over here in the States, I tried to collect everything and anything. It didn't matter where it was from. Didn't care what kind of game it was. It could have been Barbie. I would have downloaded it because I just wanted to add it to my collection and keep growing my collection. And that's just the way that I became a collector of these games and loved it. And now having them 30 years later and being able to play them, it's just a blast. fast. But don't stop there, guys. There's a lot more of what's on that floppy on this channel, so go and watch these other videos too.
What are you waiting for? Click it.